one of the sound bites, I guess, that I'm trying to share with a lot of people here as we look at the new developments is checkpoints, not checklists, which is the next slide. So, do we need lots of checklists for all of the children we're working with to make sure that they're doing well? No. What we need is the right curriculum and the highly skilled staff working with the children. And the progress model is through the curriculum and through the way that the staff work with those children. So there are checkpoints in the new development matters, and they're in place in the prime areas really to help staff who may be less experienced or maybe in a school, for example, someone who's new to EYFS, just to see some of the key things that we might expect children to be doing at certain stages in their development. So they're there to guide. They're not there to be turned into a checklist and used for all children. And staff who are more experienced in the early years are going to need them much less than newer or less experienced staff. What we also certainly need to have in the early years are systems to make sure that no groups of children are missing out. So if you've got large numbers of disadvantaged children on roll funded by the offer for 2-year-olds or eligible for earliest pupil premium, then of course it's really vital that you've got systems in place to make sure that those children are getting the sort of provision they need and are making strong progress like everyone else is. If you're in a setting where you're counting those children on the fingers of one hand, that sort of system isn't going to be sensible. It's really just going to be looking at each child as an individual and thinking through the sort of support that's being offered to them. But the main point I would put to everyone here is what we haven't yet done well in the system in England is to make sure that all children are doing really well in their early years, and the gaps between disadvantaged children and everyone else are still a matter of concern. And that's something that we do definitely need to keep an eye on. But the alternative to this approach is that we end up with enormous amounts of data on children, which aren't really useful for us as practitioners. They don't really mean anything to parents when you share them with parents. They tie up an enormous amount of our time, which we could spend doing other things which are more valuable. So it's an awful lot of work for not a lot of outcomes for the children. And that, I think, is where we are hoping that the new development matters will give managers and teams and childminders and school leaders the opportunity over the year ahead just to rethink the balance of what we're doing and make sure that we're putting our efforts where they really need to be.